Salofalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, the Pacific Islands Forum gives into China's demand at the Leaders' Summit in Tonga. Also,
this is not a race issue. It is about fairness and justice.
New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister says the citizenship bill needs adjustments and
please help us, because we're one small island.
Survivors of Guam's nuclear test seek compensation. The Pacific Islands Forum has submitted to China's demand to remove the mention of Taiwan from the final communique of the Leaders' Summit in Tonga last week. Kiribati wants to see consequences for whoever is behind the bungle after Beijing's special envoy to the region cried foul at the inclusion of Taipei in the outcomes document. Lydia Lewis covered the summit in Tonga and filed this report.
As the curtains fell on the Pacific Leaders Summit in Tonga, China hogged the limelight.
China certainly is a Pacific nation, and the U.S. said it's a Pacific question. Pacific is big enough, for all of us.
China's Pacific ambassador Jiang Bo ran to the first Pacific leader he could find after exploding to media over the inclusion of Taiwan in the final communique.
It must be corrected. This is surprising, mistake made by someone.
The communique was taken down shortly after an interaction with Cook Islands Prime Minister and former Pacific Islands Forum Chair Mark Brown, in which RNZ Pacific captured Mr. Brown saying, "We'll remove it" in a live photo.
We believe that the inclusion of the Taiwan can cause problems within our PIF.
That's Kiribati's head of delegation, Alexander Tiabo, who says the Taiwan-China issue is very sensitive.
We respect that our one China policy. The majority are following China. We believe that China would be frustrated in learning this.
There were mixed reactions from other government officials who RNZ Pacific spoke to on the issue, with one saying they were disappointed that the PIF Secretariat let the Taiwan section slide, with another saying it was not a big deal. United States Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell says in principle Washington welcomes any country that's committed to improving the living standards of Pacific peoples, including China.
China's engagement in some of these areas is unobjectionable. We do have concerns in certain areas where China has supported undemocratic elements and where we've seen abuses in fishing practices, and also we are concerned by the potential for power projection capabilities into a region of peace.
Despite the concerns, Taiwan has steadily been losing allies in the Pacific, with Nauru being the latest in the region to drop ties in January of this year. But Tuvalu's Prime Minister has his eyes fixed on Taiwan. Veleti Teo says their relationship is built on democratic respect.
We've had a very long-term relationship with Taiwan, and I think we are one of the 3 foreign members that has maintained and sustained our relationship with Taiwan, and we don't contemplate to engage with mainland China.
Nauru's President David Adiang says he's pleased to see the Pacific Islands Forum remain united.
Despite some issues that obviously different countries will have different positions on, everybody made a magnificent effort to stay united and make compromises where you can so the region can become stronger and more prosperous together.
Despite the drama over Taiwan being mentioned in the initial leaders' communique, a spokesperson for the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat says it does not change or impact the decisions made at the meeting.
Over 200 members of the Samoan community in Aotearoa gathered at the Le Maota o Samoa last week in South Auckland's Mangere to discuss the citizenship bill. They shared their views of acting Prime Minister Vauwasa Manaia Winston Peters and the New Zealand First Party. Grace Fever-Eye was there and has the story.
The Samoa Citizenship Bill aims to restore a pathway to New Zealand citizenship for a group of people born in then Western Samoa between 1924 and 1949, whose citizenship was revoked by the Citizenship Western Samoa Act of 1982. Peters has previously stated that New Zealand First will continue to support the bill all the way, but they would like to see some adjustments. Mr. Peters highlighted that in a previous discussion with the Samoan Prime Minister, Fiame Naomi Mataafa, on the matter, when he asked what the Samoan government's view was on the issue, Fiame responded that it was an issue for the New Zealand government.
In a recent discussion with Prime Minister Fiame in Samoa, I asked her, Prime Minister, what is the view of the Samoan government? Which she said, it is an issue for the New Zealand government, which we respect.
However, according to Mr. Peters, it is a concern for the governments in the Pacific of the people leaving. He said the New Zealand government will continue to support to keep the economies in the Pacific alive.
All around the Pacific there's a concern of people leaving, and we are very focused as a government on ensuring we do our utmost to keep the economies in the Pacific alive, to keep their people and their populations going forth with confidence into the future.
Mr. Peters said they helped keep the bill alive.
When this matter came before Parliament, while we found out what people's feelings were and their intentions were, and how many it would include, we did not vote it down. We were the ones that supported it to go to a select committee and keep it alive.
Pacific Forum Leaders Coordinator Te Le'iai Edwin Puni says it is not a race issue, it is about fairness and justice.
This is not a race issue. It is about fairness and justice. The unfair treatment of Samoans that were born between 1924 to 1949, denying the right to New Zealand citizenship, continues to exist today, only to be taken away by a hasty amendment in legislation. The argument then that 100,000 Samoans at the time will leave and all come to New Zealand is another act of colonial mindset.
Te Le'iai said the biggest challenge to Pacific people is not being connected, that affects their well-being, and hopes it is a start to a new era.
The biggest challenge to many New Zealanders of Samoan and Pacific ethnicity is in a non-connectedness with the thinking of government, city councils, local boards and their agencies. As a result, many New Zealanders of Pacific ethnicity tend not to participate in significant matters that affect their well-being.
New Zealand First Deputy Leader Shane Jones was the ambassador a decade ago in the Pacific Islands, where he met a number of Pacific leaders. To do the right thing is at the foundation of their political party.
I met a number of your leaders, a number of you here today. The desire, as we say in Māori, the nana, the passion to do the right thing is at the foundation of our political party.
Mr. Jones reminded the community about a Samoan church in Hamilton 4 years ago while working with Sir William Seal, where it provided assistance from the Provincial Growth Fund from 2017 to 2020. He hopes that if it were to come back, the community will reciprocate that aroha back.
In Ka Heretaunga, Hamilton, particular Samoa, when we worked with William Seal, we're supported with financial assistance from the Provincial Growth Fund of 2017-2020. In the event we have the chance to do that again, remember to give the aroha to Matua Shane Jones, okay?
Against the backdrop of the passing of the Māori king, Kingi Tuheitia, and the death of the RSC workers who died in a car crash, Winston Peters shared his condolences.
Can we pass on our condolences to the very sad deaths of the RSC workers recently, coming up from Tauranga? Pass on our condolences to their families, and to say to their fellow workers we'll do all we can, both here in Samoa, to lighten their present burden.
And Shane Jones also acknowledged the Samoan community for their respects to Kingi Tuheitia.
Thank you very much for acknowledging the passing of King Tuheitia. All of Pacifica, right back to the day of Princess Tepuea, before the Second World War, acknowledged the special status in New Zealand
In the Marshall Islands between 1946 and 1958, the US detonated 67 nuclear tests, and the brutal impacts are still being felt today. The radiation spread to the US Pacific territory of Guam, and while Washington settled a compensation deal with the Marshallese, Guam survivors have never been acknowledged or compensated. But now the remaining cancer survivors are demanding that wrong is put right. Alicia Foon filed this report from Guam.
Why are you going to go and funnel monies into these foreign countries to fight their own wars when here your people, we're falling down like flies because of cancer?
Guam survivors of nuclear radiation exposure are still grasping onto hope. Sharing their stories for the first time, people like Linda Perez and Lourdes Mendiola want the world to know how their lives have been devastated.
Please help us, because we're one small island and the others, the bigger state, bigger compensation. What about us? We're just a tiny island. Why not take care of us also? We are part of the United States. We are U.S. citizens. And it's not what we did to ourselves. It was beyond our control. We were exposed, and we have all these ailments. So help us for our children.
The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, or RECA, expires at the end of the year after decades of offering financial assistance to people harmed by the US nuclear weapons program. Time is running out for the Guam survivors. Linda Perez won the battle against cancer twice, but her family and extended family didn't make it.
My sister passed from ovarian cancer. I was diagnosed with uterine cancer. The last 2 years, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. My first cousin's all in 2022. 5 of us at the same time diagnosed with cancer, and then 4 of them passing. I have to tell that story.
Mendiola has 6 children. 4 have severe learning disabilities. She is their sole carer.
We are affected, and our offspring are affected. I am also diagnosed as having a nodule in my lungs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So why me? Why my children?
She fears for their future if they have no care or compensation when she's gone. On Guam, the hospital has been in a 2-year tug-of-war with Guam's governor, Lou Leon Guerrero, and the US military over whether to refurbish or rebuild. Nuclear radiation survivors and their families say the limbo has contributed to a worsening health crisis. Many are forced to go overseas for better treatment and care, but it's extremely costly.
Each drug costs at least $10,000, and I had to get 5 chemo drugs. So that was $50,000 roughly each session.
Medical fundraising is their reality. Albert Perez watched his wife Gloria deteriorate into depression after her breast cancer diagnosis. The couple worked for the military and are calling on Congress to include Guam in the Radiation Compensation Act.
We just want to be recognized.
That's all.
Yeah, and accounted for what they did. Help us over here. Give us qualified professional health care.
Gloria Perez says it's not too late for the US to right its wrongs.
I just hope that Speaker Johnson realizes that we are U.S. citizens also. And, we need to be recognized that, Guam has more soldiers in the military. We just need to be part of Washington.
Advocates accuse Speaker Mike Johnson of denying justice to survivors of nuclear radiation. RNZ Pacific has approached him for comment.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.